So ladies and gentlemen, we now have Senior Minister of State, Mr. Tan Kiat Hao with us. And so Kiat Hao, thanks for joining us for part 2 of the conversation. And just to recall, you talk a lot about housing matters and things like that. That's usually a very sensitive topic, but I think you covered it well. But let's talk about 2 other more sensitive topics, right? Number one, we're going to talk today about cost of living, which is a big issue with Singaporeans. But I think the bigger issue right now is the trade war and the economic repercussions to Singapore and things like that. So let's talk about cost of living first, right?
Sure.
Singaporeans are now very hit by this inflation.
Yeah.
Like all citizens of all countries,
Yeah.
they blame the government, which is not a fair blame because, I think the person who blames is Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve. He just print money everywhere and just elevated everything. But what's your main message to Singaporeans who are being hit by all this cost of living? I know you gave a lot of vouchers. People can't pay, right? Vouchers one time, price increase forever, that kind of thing. You can't make everybody happy. Right? So what's your main message on the cost of living?
No, I understand. I mean, especially for me as an MP for Kampong Chai Chee East Coast, I mentioned to you earlier that my residents are actually older. So there are many seniors, some of them living alone, no family support, many of them retirees, or even those who stopped working for a number of years, but in their lifetime they had actually very low wages. So may not be your typical members that listen to your program, have your retirement inadequacy, etc. in CPF. So they are actually quite hard hit. So I can fully understand anxieties and concerns, especially when you are depending on your eroding purchasing power of your savings to put food on the table and to buy essentials, and things seems to be getting more expensive. So I fully understand. It is a global issue in a way because it's not just Singapore, but all countries and most cities are all hit, right?
Yes.
And Singapore, we are doubly hit because it's not just because post-COVID, you have your supply chain disruptions and recovering from COVID impact, but we are doubly hit because we import almost everything.
Yeah.
Right, we import the things that we wear, the food that we eat, the energy that powers our electricity grid, it's all imported. And when not just COVID-19, but because of the few conflicts that's happening around the world, Ukraine, Russia, what's happening in the Middle East, that has created a lot of turbulence in the overall global macroeconomic situation. So we import in many of these higher prices. We are trying to mitigate the impact to Singaporeans through a few means. One, of course, is strengthening our Singapore currency. So for those people who travel recently, shook. Go to Japan, go to any Malaysia,
Korea.
Yeah, so one Singapore dollar buys much more things there now, right? So we increase the Singapore dollar, strengthen it so that when we buy things, import in things, it helps to mitigate the cost pressures. But there's a limit to how much we can strengthen our Singapore dollar without eroding our own.
I do business, I export, very expensive.
We erode our competitiveness, and to a certain extent, our customers say, don't need, I found somebody else. Right? And that will have impact on the economy.
Sure.
Second thing we are doing is making sure that for the most vulnerable, we try to give additional support, right? And we are try to see how we can reduce costs for businesses across the board too. And one way that we try to do that is making sure that we have many more options for people to buy things, right? When you import in vegetables, fruits, import in anything, we try to have many linkages with different markets, different suppliers, so that we can able to get the cheaper prices to Singapore.
I see.
You go to cold storage, you go to NTUC, you go to any supermarket, see so many options, and you notice your fruits, your vegetables, actually they're from different places. And that's the way how to make sure you have not put all eggs in one basket. The third thing we are also doing is more local initiative. I mean, we have vouchers and things like that because we try to mitigate the cost increases, impact. But at local initiatives and different constituencies, they have targeted initiatives for different segments. So for example, in my
your constituency, what do you do for your people?
I call it Good Lobang.
Good Lobang.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good name.
Hou Kang, Good Lobang.
Yeah.
So because mine is a residential area around the Bedok Town Centre, actually we're quite a vibrant town centre, merchants, hawkers. So I rally all of them. So the merchants, hawkers, hey, with our residents here, we're supporting you for so many decades. Can we find a way of supporting them also? So the merchants are very good. They say that, every day or every week I got different promotion. Maybe I got a very good deal. Vegetables I buy from this supplier, good deal. I better go share with my residents. So we started this program called Good Lobang, where we tell the residents, I got this promotion, come and get it. Now after a while, some merchants say, I want to support the low-income household. So got blue charge card, orange charge card. Certain days a week, I give discount, right? Maybe $2 breakfast set or whatever, no? And then some of them went one step further to say that, okay, I have a $1 deal now in my constituency. So for this month, for this who buy $1 coupon, you get some daily essentials at $1. So last month in March, we had packet of rice, 1 bottle oil, $1.
$1.
Yeah.
Oh, you very nice your constituency there.
And the coffee shop, I got 15 coffee shops, right? 15 coffee shops. They say participate. So every month, one coffee shop will come and say, okay, you buy $1 coupon, I will sell a meal for you. Chicken rice $1, chap chai $1,
I see.
fish soup $1.
I
So
see.
it's a way of trying to give back to the community, and we target the lower income households.
I see.
So most importantly, just want to tell the residents and Singaporeans is that we understand, and we will walk the journey with you, and we always lean forward to help those, especially those in need.
Maybe a nice segue to the most horrific situation right now that we kena. Actually, I think the flavor of last 1 year is cost of living and things like that.
Yeah.
But actually, because I do videos and live stream every day, I've got a 1865 Telegram group that people are talking about it. You'll be surprised. Almost suddenly, nobody talk about cost of living anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody. And the flavor of I would like to say the month, no, it's flavor of the week right now, is this massive pain that comes from the tariff war that Trump is doing on us. And I think most Singaporeans can see that a storm is coming. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's important for me to ask you, as a SMS, what's your read of this whole thing? How serious it is? Because there are a group of people who thinks it's very serious. There's also a group of people who thinks that it's like this whole thing will blow over. It's just Trump having some mood swing and then fuss. What's your read of the whole thing?
Well, I think it's worrying, and let me explain. And I think Singaporeans are very sensible. They may angst about cost of living, they angst about housing, but they fundamentally know the system is working, and they are benefiting. But when such a big storm comes, I think it's not just about worrying about whether the lights are on. It's whether the building is it stable, with a structural change. And I worry because there is a real risk that the whole superstructure, the structure of our economy will be severely shaken. Our peace, prosperity for Singapore has been on a bedrock of a strong economy, vibrant economy. Investments, jobs, wages go up, opportunities, and that's how we can afford a better life for everyone. And this economy, what is it dependent on? Dependent on being relevant and useful for the rest of the world, to the rest of the world. The services that we produce, that we provide, someone is buying it, and being a safe and pro-business place, so people invest here. Our trade is 3 times our GDP. The volume of trade is 3 times our GDP. Our economy, 50% of our GDP is from large companies, mainly MNCs.
Wow, 50%. Okay.
And they hire 70% of our local workforce.
Wow.
Significant, right? So what does this trade war or tariff war mean for all of us? Some people say, only 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
Everyone 10%, so sama-sama,
right?
Yeah. Well, yes, the 10% hit us, and 10% does impact us directly. Investment and jobs, right? Tied to that. But actually, the bigger impact is the indirect one. If the total volume of trade falls, I think the Singapore's relevance to the rest of the world diminishes, right? But one of all these different techniques, one thing I really took away from the professor many years ago on decision making is to simplify the ideas into the most simple format. It doesn't fully represent the real world, but helps to clarify our thinking. So talk about trade, right? And people say, what does it mean for me? What does impact of tariffs mean? So assuming this whole living room, there's two of us lah.
Yeah.
Two countries,
Sure.
country Lu and country Kiat, right?
Yeah.
And we are self-sufficient in everything,
Sure.
right? But then we like strawberries and coconuts, ice cream, right? So you produce strawberries better than me, twice as productive as me.
Sure.
I produce coconut twice as productive. Maybe my temperature, my climate, So in a ideal world, both of us should trade. You should focus on producing strawberries.
Yes.
I
And
should
can do it really well.
really well, right? I should produce coconuts really well.
Yep.
And then we trade, and then so our people can enjoy coconut and strawberry ice creams.
Okay.
Right? And in a world where there's other countries coming in. Right, now you have blueberries and different kind of fruits, and then you have, when you want to ship things to each other, right? You have to package it, maybe strawberry ice cream, you add some flavors to it, and you need to pay each other. So you have a country that does the financial flow, the shipment flow, etc. So if in a world that because of tariffs, you say that because I think you are running a surplus, right? I think it's unfair, right? By the way, Singapore runs a deficit with US, right?
But you don't care.
We buy more from them than they buy from us, right? In terms of dollar value, right? So in a world where trade flows, countries like Singapore allows us to import in strawberry, right? Package it, preserve it, maybe can make a different kind of flavor of strawberry, then export it to another country, right? And because of the trade flows, allows us to ship things through us. Financial flows allow us to intermediate. We make a living. If tomorrow countries say, you want to sell strawberry to my people, you have to grow it in my country. You want to sell cars to my residents, you must make the cars there. And then because of tariffs, make the companies decide, yes, indeed, it makes more sense to do so. Investment decisions shift, right? It actually does a lot of harm for countries like Singapore, because who will come to Singapore to build cars just to sell to Singaporeans? Who will come to Singapore to build iPhones just to sell iPhones to Singaporeans, right? And it makes a lot of impact on us, because with trade falling, investments going to other countries means our relevance to the rest of the world diminishes.
Oh.
So the impact on our economy is significant.
Oh.
It is about investments, it's about jobs, it's about wages. I talked about the structure of economy just now, right? But more fundamentally, longer term impact is also impacting on the rule-based system that we are part of. So every country has some form of tariffs, except Singapore, because you're so small. We trade with everyone and almost zero tariffs. Every country has some exemptions and some carves out for interest. In Singapore, we do. Even if our FTAs and bilateral, because national defense, security, some carve-outs. Bigger countries may have more carve-outs and more exemptions, right? But everyone participates in this global trading order because win-win for everyone. I might run a deficit with you, but I might run a surplus with anyone, and everyone participates because it's win-win, comparative advantage. But tomorrow, if you describe a worst-case scenario where countries, because of tariffs and because of other economic pressures, turn inwards. So large countries, big markets, they might actually able to sustain, because we want to sell cars to big market. I've got a billion people population. I've got 700 million people. Some factories will say, I'll build a factory there to sell cars to you, right? And if that happens, medium-sized economy, so I can do that too, right? For certain sectors. Then for us, what can we do? So I think it's actually a scenario where the whole trading international system may slowly fragment, crumble. That's the worst case, right? So I explained to you, we always think about end case scenarios, corner scenarios.
Sure.
So you think about it, the direct impact is one thing, but the indirect impact on investments, on jobs, and in terms of that, consequence of our opportunities, our wages, right? And also confidence, global confidence in business, and global confidence in able to invest diminishes. In that scenario, I think it's a big impact on Singapore, our economy.
So do you think that there will be a economic slowdown, and in your own assessment, is there a chance that Singapore could go into recession?
Well, hard to say. We don't. I mean, government is looking at the GDP forecast. I mean, a lot of the impact of the what's happening is still being analyzed, assessed, because it hasn't come into force yet. Some of the issues haven't, some of the tariffs haven't come into force, and I think many businesses are taking a wait and see approach. Wait and see is not good for us too. Say you have
I just don't invest.
I don't invest.
Yeah.
So I just sit on my hands.
Yeah.
And secondly, if even I invest, I have a risk premium. Right, the returns on investment must be much higher. So overall, confidence falls, activities fall. But the impact is slowly being assessed. That's why Prime Minister has asked Deputy Prime Minister Gan to chair a task force to think about basically look at this situation and how can we chart a way forward. And I think this is not just about short-term implications, but I mentioned earlier, long-term impact on the structure of our economy and the vibrancy of our industries and sectors, and this significant impact potentially.
I see. So in this kind of likelihood, in my personal assessment, I think being hit economically is almost 100%. Whether you will result in recession, that's hard to say. Well, two questions. Number one is for your at a personal level, what should we do? You know, like these are like global thing. There's nothing I can do. I just kena. What else can I do? Right? You know, go buy more 4D or Toto. Is it? Yeah. Then the second thing is, you know, as a government, what do you think are the likely steps that you all would do to help people like us? Right? We're just like an event taker and price taker, right? Like kena, right? There's nothing we can do, right?
Well, maybe I start with the government first. It's not. There are things that we can do, and we have been doing it for many years, right? One of the areas that we've been doing for many years is don't put all our eggs in one basket, right? And that's the reason why our agencies have been actively bringing industry groups to different markets, Latin America, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, is to look at market opportunities, because there are still silver linings. Their economy is still growing. And second, we have been strengthening our network of free trade agreements, both at the multilateral level but also at bilateral level. So EU, Singapore, for example, and just ways to make sure that we open up new markets and new opportunities for companies, right? So don't put our eggs in one basket. And in addition to not just putting eggs in, that means have many baskets. We also not just even in that country, we don't just go to the same basket. We are actually extending the basket to new areas. So for example, in the digital economy, and as more and more of our value-add goods and services move from physical goods and services, traditional services, into new areas, digital, right? Data flows, right? Payment flows, right? And so green economy. So we are also building up our network of digital economy agreements, green economy partnerships with different countries, like-minded countries. So we are finding more baskets so that we can spread the risk and have more opportunities. But even with those existing baskets with those countries, we are extending those baskets to new areas, right? So that's what we are doing. And also we are working with like-minded countries. So for example, ASEAN in like-minded trading partners to strengthen our collaborations. So that's something we can do as government and together with our industry, right? And I always say, 60 years of independence, 风风雨雨都见过了, right? So steady lah, we've been through many crises, from global financial crisis, SARS, COVID, we've been through many crises, and I have confidence that we can also power through and find new opportunities. Every dark clouds has silver lining. We need to find that silver lining, but how to do so? I think you have to be nimble, be agile, and be united as one people, because we have to make hard decisions we have to pivot, we have to make hard decisions, go to this new opportunity, let's tighten our belt so that we can do something. Or when we negotiate with a partner and they will put pressure on us, right? But if they know that government, people, all Singaporeans are united, they also know that the government can negotiate on behalf of Singaporeans.
They cannot jia us.
Cannot jia us.
Yeah.
They know we are united. No?
That's very important, That's very important, yes.
I always say, in a playground, when the bully comes, you better all stand together, right? Not swap.
That's so important. This statement is so important that when a bully comes, when we all stand together, the bully cannot take us on.
Yeah, and it's united, no?
Yeah.
We are all united together. And I think that's what we can do as government to create opportunities where people come together and industries come together, and maybe we can find new opportunities. Every crisis, there are opportunities.
Wonderful.
Right? And as a person, as an individual, what can we do?
Yeah.
I think, well, you are the financial investment expert, but I always believe that the biggest investment that one can do is in ourselves. In ourselves. The skills, our own career development, our ability to pivot and take on new jobs, new roles, new tasks, use new technology to be more productive. All these things matters a lot, right? So that we remain competitive and remain the place to be where people want to put investments, notwithstanding if we become slightly more expensive because of these tariffs and things like that, right? But we want to be in Singapore because it's a pro-business, it's stable, and people here are hardworking, they are smart, they add value to me. And this morning and yesterday, I was speaking to a number of tech companies. And it was arranged some time ago, but when now I go for the meeting, everyone's asking about this issue, right, tariffs, and they shared their concerns about their investments, because they invest in big companies, invest all around the world, and they assured me that investments in Singapore will continue.
Wow.
Why? Because they know that we are a treasured and reliable partner. We don't change rules halfway, and we will work together to have win-win outcomes.
Yeah.
So in a more uncertain world, and companies making major decisions, multi-billion, multi-year decision, we want to stand out to remain the place of choice, to be the investment destination. Why? Because that's the only way to create good jobs for people and good wages.
Wow. I think this is an opportune time for me just to reinforce it. I know I'm quite shameless about it. I'm just saying that please strengthen our country, who you vote for, so that we can fight against bullies that are coming to us and things like that. I think it's so important. I think analogy is so great. But this just very heartwarming to know that that yourself is very visionary, and we've got a government that is helping us, all the individuals. Well, maybe I know these are all serious hard talk and things like that. I like it that you said that 风风雨雨我们都经历过 kind of thing. It's a lot of confidence. I think that's important. Right? You want to choose a government that has confidence that will bring us through.
And have confidence as a people.
Yep.
As a people, we talk about 60 years of independence, and one of my most memorable posting after IDA, I've met you 20 years ago.
Yep.
After that, one of my posting was to set up this place called the Pioneer Generation Office. Because you remember 10 years plus ago, we had the Pioneer Generation Package.
Yes.
And we wanted every pioneer to benefit fully from it. So they set up this office to say that, can we mobilize volunteers? Knock on every door of our pioneers and talk to them, explain the package to them, and say a big thank you to them on behalf of Singaporeans. So they started this office called Pioneer Generation Office. I was the first director there, right? So we mobilized about 3,000 volunteers.
Wow.
Across Singapore for 1 year. We work 24 hours. We work 7 days a week. We knock on $500,000, 500,000 households of pioneers.
500,000, half a million.
Half a million.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it was a humbling experience,
Sure.
and to me it was a real privilege because I joined my volunteers to do some of these house visits, and the most heartwarming thing that I've experienced during that time was enter a house of the pioneer, like both of us chit-chatting. They're very warm. They come in, drink, have a drink, have some food, and they shared their life story. And it's quite amazing some of the stories that our grandparents go through. The time, British colony, Second World War, Japanese occupation, early years of independence, and hard slog just to build a country in the 1960s, 70s, and it's amazing. And I can't imagine, wow, the life then was so tough, and they had so little, but they persevered, right? And why I think it's persevered, of course we have good leaders, we have good government, good policies, but I think the most important is the heart of the people. a sense of unitedness, a sense of cohesion, a sense of purpose, a sense of mission to say, this is my home, this is my Singapore, rain or shine, wind, storms, I'll make it succeed. And I think this sense of purpose, this sense of, I think, cohesion and resilience is something as Singaporeans we are proud of. And I think every generation will have it. And I think we are inspired by the previous generation, and our generation must do our part to inspire the next generation.
Well,
so whether is it tariffs, trade, economic instability, geopolitical uncertainty, as long as one united people with the right heart and purpose, I think Singapore will thrive.
Well said. Well, I like your confidence, right? That's very motivating for me also. Well, some light-hearted topics before we wrap up. So since we are on the 1865 channel, everybody talk about money. And I always want to ask, minister can invest or cannot invest?
Can invest, yeah.
So what do you invest?
Financially I'm very conservative.
Okay.
Partly maybe my upbringing, and partly because I really don't have a lot of time to manage portfolios and things like that. So I'm very conservative, right? I always invest in say only list on stock exchange listed companies. I don't invest in private equity and things like that. And a lot of things is just you invest and I don't look at it for like years. I don't adjust my portfolio.
Individual stocks or like a global diversified index or funds?
Increasingly, it's just global index because I no time to do the research and for companies. So
I say that because I told everybody, even so smart, also
no.
So, I mean, because we all no time, right? And
I think there are very smart people out there,
Sure.
and if you do your homework, actually there are a lot of opportunities.
Sure.
And now with digitalization and your robo investment companies and so many opportunities, I think young people are much more savvy. For me, it's just that I don't have the time, and I think I always don't not comfortable investing things I don't know about lah. So I'm a bit more conservative. So I may not be a best role model. But the other consideration I have is that I have young kids. My son is 4.5, my daughter is 1.5, and roughly about same age,
Sure.
Well, look, the kids all grown up already.
So, not like you're younger than me lah.
Slightly only. So I always worry about my kids' future. So a lot of the investment I do is so thinking about what's in it for them.
Sure.
So whether it's putting aside something for the endowments or for their universities so it's a lot more patient capital but longer term horizon for the kids.
Wow. So to your, you are. I just looking at you. It's just I just felt like your constituency is very blessed to have you, leading the constituency. So maybe some tips about your constituency. The best makan place. Okay, best hawker or coffee shop, or best.
I'm biased.
Okay.
I'm biased. I know we are now sitting in Lou's living room in Jurong, right? But I will unashamedly make a plug. East side is the best side.
In terms of what?
Everything.
Makan
culture. East Coast Park is there. The airport is there.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the West, to be fair lah. So I have a lot of memories of the West.
Sure.
I grew up in Clementi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nearby here. But East side is really, in a way, quite a foodie place.
That is true.
So you have a whole range. You have a little hole in the wall, like the small restaurants, your cafes, for the younger, hip crowd. And then you have the more traditional Peranakan places. You have the coffee shops and hawker centers. In my constituency, the hawker center, we have 2 hawker centers. Very, very, very lucky, right? And about 14, 15 coffee shops, right? So competition is tough. If your bak chor mee, your chicken rice, all this cannot make it up very fast, kena kick out. Your competition is very tough.
Sure.
And the food center, my 216, is probably the largest food center in the east side, and with a wet market lah. So I will suggest that because it's a good place to start exploring the east. It's very convenient. It's a Habib Bedok in Bedok town, and many of the hawkers there are first gen.
Oh.
So gu zhao wei.
Wow. So do you eat there?
Yeah, every week.
Every week?
Every week,
Wow,
yeah.
I thought ministers don't eat in hawker center.
No, I love hawker center.
I see.
I mean, the food there is sedap.
Yeah.
And I grew up eating hawker food. And but I mean, when I grew up, I can tell my age. My first memories of hawker food is not hawker center. roadside.
Really?
Yeah, I remember
Roadside.
my mom bringing me to Chinatown,
Sure.
having Yong Tau
Oh
Foo.
yes, those days were roadside. Yes.
Literally eating by the roadside.
Yes,
But
yes.
the best meals of my life, I still remember.
Yeah. Wow, that's so nice. Well, Kiat, it's such a wonderful time, talking to you, and you impart so much insights, and we really benefited from some of your sharing as well. And I'm sure that under your leadership, your constituency will do really well. And any last words for Singaporeans or even your constituency?
No, thanks for inviting me to your show, and I think it's a wonderful program that you have.
Thank you.
Helping to spotlight very important topics to Singaporeans, help to raise awareness of these issues, and also, in a way, collectively we can have a better appreciation of the situation. Of course, for many it's about investments and financial literacy.
Yep.
But also I think it's the context of where we are in Singapore,
Yep.
the context of the world that we are in. And I think for Singapore, we are actually very fortunate to have a peaceful and a stable global environment over the last 60 years. After the Second World War, major international institutions were put in place like WTO, IMF, World Bank. It was relatively a peaceful place, peaceful times. And I think we prospered. And Singapore has done well. And over the next 60 years, if I think about my children and their children, I think there are opportunities, notwithstanding the strong headwinds, the turbulence, and a lot of uncertainty. As long as we stay true to our principles and fundamental values, things we recite in our pledge, regardless of race, language, or religion, continue to stay united as one people, and continue to always think about the future. We are a people that's forward-leaning. We just don't think about our generation. Every generation has its own set of challenges and opportunities, but every generation has the responsibility to leave a better place for the next generation. And as long as we have these values and ethos, I think Singapore will thrive for many years to come.
Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Senior Minister of State, Mr. Tan Kee Hao, we have such a wonderful, blessed time with you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure.
You, yeah.
Okay, so remember, right, to watch this video, recommend it to your friends, and we'll see you again in a day or two. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.